Scott Simon, welcome to the Big Self Show.
Chad, it's so good to be with you.
It is a delight to be with you. We're really honored. I'm excited for this conversation. I've been trying to channel any fears, anxieties that I have and trying to channel them into courage as I've been checking out all of your stuff. So yeah, I'm really excited here. First, let's begin with asking you what we are asking every guest at the beginning of our shows, which is the idea of when you think of big self, what first comes to mind? And if you want, you can kind of contrast it with like, what does it mean to be in a little self? Or you could just think of it, what is big self to you?
Sure. So first off, so great to be with you. I love the work that you're doing and so happy to be on this podcast. I love this question about the big self. Here's where my mind goes. I love this metaphor of a sculpture. This may be different than some of your other guests have said, but I really believe that we have something inside of each one of us. Call it a soul. I actually kind of view it almost as a sculpture that is super vibrant. It's courageous. It's who we were when we were kids and we hopped on a playground and all we wanted to do was connect with other kids, have fun, play, run around, that sense of pure humanness. And what happens over the years is, we have experiences, we have traumas, things happen to us in life. We get jobs, we need to write CVs and resumes, and we kind of cover that essential sculpture up with stone and calcification. I really do believe that the way to get to our big self, to your question, is to chip away at that stone, to chip away at the stuff that has kind of overcome that deep, vibrant internal sculpture that we all have. I really believe that whole process is all about courage. That courage is like the chisel that chisels away at all that calcification because it allows us to step into moments that end up bringing that true big self into the world. So that's my answer to you. The big self is that vibrant sculpture inside of each one of us.
Beautiful. What a metaphor. We've got to use that. That's memorable. And speaking of chipping away at transformation and change, I've listened to your story, enjoyed your book, Scare Your Soul. You call yourself a doer now, but you had to go through a transformation to arrive at that description of yourself. As I understand, you would say that you changed your story. And that's what I coach clients to do in our practice is be the person that you envision being. So yes. How do you overcome, how did you or do you overcome fear and have developed that muscle in yourself?
Well, first of all, I think it's something that's available to each one of us. So it is absolutely a choice and a ritual and a habit. I think many times, and I'm in courage work every single day, that people think that they need to do the big things, jump out of airplanes, quit jobs, make these radical life shifts. In my mind, it's the little actions that move the muscle. It's like somebody who wants to run a marathon and they don't run. It's not about getting up there and running 20 plus miles day one. It is strapping on those shoes every single day. So I'll tell you a quick story about what happened to me. I think your listeners have a moment like this in their lives where they felt like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. So I grew up very, very shy. I was short. I was bullied when I grew up and really led a very, very small life. I remember wanting to just shrink, like even shorter than I was, and be invisible because that meant I wouldn't get beaten up, mocked, and I'd be able to just live and survive. Basically all the way through college, I was offered a job to teach English to Holocaust survivors in Israel. On the flight over, first of all, I can't believe I even accepted it because it was so out of my comfort zone to do so.
Right.
I had a panic attack on the flight. My heart was racing out of my chest. I was sweating. And I basically said to myself, like, I can't do this. I literally cannot go to another country. I don't know the language. And I took out a spiral notebook from my backpack and I wrote out 8 words into that spiral notebook. And that has become the mantra of my life. Do one thing every day that scares you.
I
Do
love
one
that.
scares you. So, what does that really mean? Because we've all heard it, right? Like it's a kind of a famous phrase. Eleanor Roosevelt is the one that it's typically attributed to.
Mm,
To me, what it means is consistent practice of pushing comfort zones. So that year in Israel, instead of coming back the next day, I literally did one thing every day that scared me. And I wrote it in that spiral notebook. Actually, I had to buy another spiral notebook because I filled it up. And that year, as you just said, changed my story. I went from being a fearful, invisible child or to being a fear chaser. Like I
mm.
literally changed my narrative. Those small actions connected and added up and changed my whole story to being a fear chaser.
And it's like there's something that I'm really attracted to about this subject, and yet I paradoxically am afraid of it. Tell us a little bit, but let's go sideways to
Sure.
just why do you advocate for this idea of the small but like daily actions over the big ones, such as like I think you've talked about before, jumping out of a plane?
Honestly, this whole experience of Scare Your Soul and of courage work really grew from, first of all, that experience in Israel where I literally, and by the way, when I say small acts, I mean small micro actions. These are not things. I was at a book talk the other night and somebody came up to me and said, "Your work sounds exhausting." That's what she said to me. Like, it sounds exhausting the way that you live and the way you want other
Yeah.
people to live. And I said, it's actually the opposite because when we do small things that light us up, it gives us energy, it gives us enthusiasm, it's adventure. And it doesn't mean that it all goes well, but it feels like living life to me. So it was this personal experience of going to Israel and doing one thing every day, even if that meant just going to the post office for the first time or saying hello to a stranger, something real small, but it adds up. I ended up meeting a professor at Harvard who is now my mentor. His name is Tal Ben Shahar. And Tal taught at that time the largest class at Harvard called The Science of Happiness. And this whole field of positive psychology and all the associated studies around what makes happy and flourishing people really supports not one-time splashy big actions, but consistent growth-oriented ways of stepping into the world boldly. And so I had all of this data, I had all of this personal experience, and I basically did one thing where I conquered one particular fear, and I'm happy to tell you that story. But that led to me writing a Facebook post about it. The post went viral. And then all of a sudden, I had hundreds of people around the world asking me to help them become more courageous. So all of a sudden, this shy kid from suburban Cleveland, Ohio, has an opportunity to be a fellow human with other people, not a guru, not a teacher, but just a fellow human walking in the world, wanting to live life as boldly as I possibly can, because I love it so much more. I love this life and I want to share it and connect with it and connect other people to it.
And you've done more than write a book about it. You've got a movement, which we'll share with that at the end, and of course in our show notes as well. Yeah, I mean, your enthusiasm for the subject is like I said, infectious. I wonder, so they talk about one thing that brings joy and happiness being to do a gratitude practice. And for an Enneagram 4 like me, that's kind of always seen a little bit of the deficit or what's lacking that I can get into, a gratitude practice at times is meaningful, but I have to say that there's something about, I know the research says that we should, it's more effective when you dig in and you get really, really particular about the things that you're
Yeah.
grateful for.
Yeah.
But I'm almost wondering if something like a courage practice might be a little bit more activating. The small things makes it a little more palatable.
Because it'll never, it's like 86% or something of people fail on their New Year's resolutions. It's just life.
Yeah.
So if we don't chunk it down and we don't make it fun, actionable, sometimes have an accountability partner, like some people do. I do
Hmm.
have a gratitude practice.
Okay.
I do want to get back to your comment about a courage practice, but I've had a gratitude practice with somebody for 8 years. We send 5 gratitudes every night by text without repeating, by the way. So I've done about 14,000 or so gratitudes without repeating over 8 years, which has been an absolutely transformative process. But I think
Okay.
it's not because I had the will to do it. It's because it was easy to do. Texting is simple. And I had an accountability partner that I knew was on the other end of that text chain. And I don't want to disappoint Carly. and she doesn't want to disappoint me. And so it
Yeah.
encourages us to do this work together. I come by this work really, it's in my bones. I really do believe so strongly that when we do these consistent actions, whether it's a gratitude practice or where you absolutely walked into, I mean, if I had to boil down this entire book that I just wrote, 262 pages, to one concept, it's exactly what you said. It's taking the concept of a meditation practice or a yoga practice or a running practice and just translating it to a courage practice. Can you
Hmm.
do one thing every day? And we could talk about what the different avenues are, because then that's really where the rubber hits the road. Can you do one thing every day that scares you or that pushes your comfort zone? I promise you, we have now thousands of participants and a book now out in every bookstore in North America, that it can be done if you just start. Things start to become, as I said, fun. It becomes a lifestyle. It becomes a story for yourself. It becomes your narrative. And then all of a sudden, you're doing things, connecting with people, having hard conversations, saying, I love you. One of our ambassadors decided to become a cheerleader for a day at the age of 53 and change the way that she views her own story by becoming a cheerleader for a day. I mean, this is fun, but powerful, powerful work.
Yeah. Wow. So you've got two practices at least, this gratitude practice and a courage practice. Well, let's see, but you've talked a lot about happiness too, even done a TED talk on it. And, just for the resistance in us, you talk about how happiness, well, you talk about how it's like, I think it's interesting, like there's 50% of happiness is genetic
Right.
and a huge other part is our actions and thoughts, which is fascinating. But happiness is where we meet pleasure and meaning. And going to our fear doesn't feel like pleasure.
It doesn't right up front, and in a way it probably never will. I mean, the word pleasure is a really interesting one because most people think of pleasure just as a superficial act of eating an ice cream cone on a hot day, or
Mm-hmm.
something that just feels super instant gratification. And certainly there is an aspect of that. And by the way, we do need pleasure in life, right, to lead a good, flourishing life. The positive psychologists all attest to the fact that we need that in our lives to be happy. But I really view pleasure more as an expanded experience, which is, to me, let me give you an example. When I volunteer, so I'm very involved in an organization here locally which provides clothing and shoes to families at risk. And a lot of the time I'm with them and we're literally handing out jackets, coats, shoe gift cards, etc. I'm going into boys and girls clubs. I'm meeting them. I'm connecting with them. We're giving this stuff away. We're raising money. Is that pleasure or is that meaning? It's both. And that's why it contributes so much to my overall level of happiness. Is there meaning included? Yes, of course. I feel a great sense of meaning doing it. But it actually gives me so much pleasure to connect with another human being and to do something that I feel like I'm acting in service and I'm doing it with an open heart. So I think, again, your questions are so on point. The whole goal behind, to me, this courage work, the gratitude work, mind body work. I mean, I know all of your coaching work that you do. What is it all for? I mean, what is it, the end game of all of this? And I
Right.
think if you asked me, the end game is all about happiness. If
Mm.
you say to me, why do you do a certain something that makes your life good? And you ask me, and I say, well, that because I think that the charity and volunteering is important. Well, why do you find it important? Well, because it's been told to me, and it's a tradition, and I like how it feels. Well, why do you like how it feels, and why it's a tradition? Because it makes me happy. I want happiness for myself. I want happiness for my children, for my community. How do I go about that? I lead an adventurous life, a bold life, a giving life, a life in service, a life in faith. All of those things lead to a happier life. And as I said, I really do believe that courage is the chisel that gets you to the sculpture. That at the
Mm.
end of the day is what unlocks all of this. So I think happiness is a huge subject. The word could never encompass what it really means to all of us.
Right.
It's like a brand. Like, I don't view it that way. I view it as the
Mhm.
essential quest of a human being. I want to lead a happy life. Well, what does that mean? It means honesty, integrity, courage, passion, service, faith, all of those things. What is my means of getting it? Stepping out of my comfort zone consistently. That's what moves the needle for me.
So we're defining happiness as, is not, no, it's not this passing pleasure thing. No, this is basically joy, right? This is
Yes, yes.
that intersection of all these, the Venn diagram
Right.
of all
That's
these
right.
points. Buy coffee for a stranger.
Yes.
And you admit that, like, you've done it many times. And I'm trying to, like, wrap my mind around, can I do that? Will I do that? And I want to do that. And I want to believe in this, like, in my, there's a part of me that just really resonates, completely believes what you're saying. And I think that for many, if not most human beings, we have this little fear of failure. Even
Yes.
if we know that maybe 8 times out of 10, the conversations are going to be serendipitous and beautiful, bring us the joy and things that you were talking about. But we're afraid of the discomforting 1 or 2 times that keeps us from doing it.
Yep. So your question is beautiful. You actually asked two questions. Can
Mm-hmm.
I do it and will I do it? And that, to me, my friend, that's the rub right there. Can
Mm-hmm.
you do it? Absolutely. Will you do it? That's in you. And I'll tell you what part of the magic of Scare Your Soul is: when we don't do this work in a vacuum, it becomes this joyful challenge. It is fun, it's engaging, and it gets us out of that moment of potential discomfort. By the way, it's imagined discomfort. Let's put it that way. So much of our life, when I talk about fear, it's not about crossing streets or touching hot stoves or even things related to your career. Should you ask for a raise? Should you not ask for a raise? And are you fearful about that? It's things that are imagined outcomes of our actions. Think about that. How often are we making ourselves a living crystal ball by saying, I can't do this because, or I won't do this because this could happen? And my belief is, let's push through that. Let's push through that in really fun and intriguing ways and do it with a community. So I'll give you an example. In Scare Your Soul, we have a challenge each week. And the challenge for this week may be buy a cup of coffee for a stranger. The fact that you know that there are thousands of people around the world buying a cup of coffee for a stranger and posting it on Instagram adds a level of fun and excitement to it. Is it a little cheesy? Maybe, but it's a permission slip to
Yeah.
do it, right? And that gets you doing it. Now, here's the key. When you do it, I promise you, you're going to share what happened with others. You're not going to do this just in a vacuum and walk away from it, because most likely, first of all, something amazing is going to happen. I've done it dozens and dozens of times. And I think I could probably count on one hand an experience that was either lackluster or negative. But I love this kind of work because it puts us in a place where we don't know what's going to happen. And that's really where beauty lies. That's where connection and growth lie. Does a painter know what it's going to look like when they put their first brush on the canvas? No. I know you've got a writing background, right? You have a powerful writing background. Do you know what the book or the article or the blog post is going to say when you write that first word? No. Is it fear? Is it terrorizing in the process? Yes. But until you do it, and unless you do it, we'll never get the gift that you're going to give us. We're never going to get that piece of writing. You have to go through the fire to create the art at the end.
And there's a lot of failure there.
There's a ton of
Yeah.
failure and judging and imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
When you write your piece, whatever your piece is, it encompasses our humanity. We're afraid of failure, of what people are going to think. We're afraid of feeling like an imposter. We're afraid of our perfection complexes. We're afraid that what we put out is not going to have enough impact. It's going to get laughed at. All of the things, and I've written a book, believe me, I know how it feels. I feel it every day when somebody told me that they bought a book. I want them, all of a sudden I'm feeling like I want it to be the best possible thing for you. I want it to change your life. There's so much fear in there, but nothing would ever happen if I didn't write it. And nothing will ever
Yeah.
happen if we don't push ourselves into those moments where we're off the couch, off of our comfort zone, and out into the world.
So true. Another perception of that is related to fear is procrastination, putting things off. And I mean, I guess it can be related to fear, but to what extent? I've heard you talk about the downward spiral and the upward spiral.
Yeah.
And I think it's related to one of your Scare Your Soul challenges, isn't it? Could you talk to us about procrastination and how you can encourage people to work through it?
Sure. I think the most powerful thing that I ever learned about procrastination is that at the end of the day, it really isn't about the action, the thing that you're avoiding. It's oftentimes the fear of the feeling that you have in doing it. The fear of the feeling of this particular thing that you have on your list. So, for example, I was talking to somebody else this morning who's in financial services, and he has to pick up the phone all the time and cold call people. Even though he's incredibly successful, he's got a great practice, he picks up the phone and calls people all the time. And he told me this morning that that is like one of his biggest procrastination, items is not picking up the phone and cold calling. So let's think about this for a second. Is his procrastination really about the experience of being on the phone with that person and being able to say the right words? It really isn't. It's not really about the action. He's done it 100 times, or he's probably done it 1,000 times. It's about the feeling of what could happen if somebody hangs up on him, if he has a bad interaction. He's avoiding the discomfort, not the action. So to me, a lot of it is, and again, so much of this work, I feel like sometimes when people listen to me, they think, gosh, buddy, I learned this in kindergarten. You're telling me these concepts that I learned when I was 5.
Well, apparently everything we learned in kindergarten is all we need.
So here, to me, it's as simple as a reframing experience. And that is the following. When our feelings of anxiety and our feelings of excitement reside within the same part of our brains. Okay, very important point. And when we reframe the things that we're procrastinating on from things that we don't want to do that could bring us discomfort into things that are potentially exciting and things that we can push through and get off of that list, we start to change what that feeling might be. Not the action, because the action is going to be what the action is going to be, but our feeling around it. So what I encourage people to do is to say, instead of I have to do this and I have to do this, it's I get to do this and I'm excited about it. And even kind of pump themselves up about it. That is a big change in getting that thing off of your mindset and yourself into action. There's a great study out there, a woman named Allison Woods Brooks, who is on faculty at Harvard, did a great study where she encouraged 2 groups of people. They had to do karaoke in front of the entire class. Okay.
Right.
Now, I don't know about you. Singing is like one of my most fearful thing. Like standing up and singing in front of other people is like the last thing I want to do. Karaoke scares the hell out of me. She split the group into 2, and she had half of them say to each other, I'm super excited to do this. They had to sing Don't Stop Believin' by Journey. Okay. They all sang the same song, same controlled environment, 2 groups. One group told each other that they were excited to do it. The other group said nothing. They just did it. And the results from the group that said that they were excited were better. The experiences they had were better. The lingering effects that they had, positivity-wise, were better. The outcomes were better. Everything was better because they said they were excited to do it. So that's why I think, although the Scare Your Soul book is very personal, there's a lot of, as you know, in a way, it's a workbook.
Yeah.
A lot of introspection, challenges, ways to interact with the world. I want this to be on people's nightstands, not on their bookshelves. I want them to use it and to allow it to be a guide But at the same time, doing this in a way that we're doing it with other people, we're doing it in a fun way, we're doing it with a level of excitement, that to me enlivens all this work. Again, it's just like going to the gym in the morning. If all you're doing is going to a cold, dark gym by yourself,
Right.
chances that you're going to do it after about 3 weeks are about nil. But to go to a fun, well-lit gym with guys and women that you know, and you're doing together and you're listening to music and you're high-fiving each other, hell, that is a recipe for
Oh,
success. I just want to translate that to life. That to me is a
wow.
recipe for life.
Yes, I'm really in feeling the infectious energy. I'm serious. And, like what I love about this too is, lately, I think it's pandemic related. It's also just our culture, the way we are so isolated from each other. But, there's all this research that's coming in that's saying, hey, guess what? Being in community with each other actually makes you happier. But nevertheless, our institutions are kind of crumbling around us. And so, what you're offering with these ideas, the movement, are ways to specifically, it's not just about like changing your mindset, although that is very useful. It's a valuable skill, but to do so, you're right, that energy of doing it with others, it's like,
Yes.
I think we all want some of that.
We do. And when we get it, it becomes addictive. We want to do
Mhm.
more of it. And that's why I really feel that this work it's not just changing ourselves, it is affecting our families, it's affecting our workplaces, and essentially it's affecting our communities and the world. Because when we start acting together more courageous, and again, I view courage so much more than, the superficial actions of jumping out of airplanes and whatnot, although I have done that with a fear of heights. And it was powerful. I'm not saying that it's not.
Mhm.
Those people who are adrenaline junkies and are surfers or extreme skiers, there's nothing wrong with that. And it does put us in a sense of flow. And that's great. To
Mhm.
me, I love the daily experience of walking in this world, feeling butterflies in my stomach, and still saying yes to challenge, still saying yes to discomfort, whether that be smiling at a stranger, singing karaoke, volunteering at a soup kitchen, having a hard conversation with a loved one, asking for a raise. Those all to me are just avenues up the same mountain, which is, can we use courageous acts that we all have available to us every day to push through those imagined fears, the fears that stop us? I had an experience a few years ago where I'm divorced and I have two kids. And as a single father, I've always invited my kids' friends over to our house. And one night, a number of years ago, my daughter, when she was in seventh grade, had a bunch of friends over. One of them ran across the street, a busy street right by where I live, and was hit by an SUV. I was in my kitchen at the time, heard the screams of all of the kids, and I ran out of my house. I ran out of my house, across my yard, into the street, and I stood over her body with incoming traffic coming in both directions to protect her. I didn't know if she was living at that time
Oh, wow.
until an ambulance came. The great news is Sophie is soon to be a junior at the College of Charleston and is doing amazing and is an amazing, healthy young woman. But I will tell you, my courage work, the cups of coffee, the singing karaoke, the having a hard conversation, the saying I love you first, those prepared me for the moments where we have to step up in life. This is important work. This isn't just about having fun and it's enlivening, but this is about living life so that we are fully engaged and we are fully ready for those moments when we do have to metaphorically step into the street with our arms outstretched, because it happens to all of us. I want to be ready. I want to already know that I'm a courageous person, that I've got the skills, the confidence, the self-efficacy to do it. I want to help other people do it so that when somebody gets sick in their family, or they lose a job, or they have to move to a new city and make new friends, that they're ready, that they feel empowered, they feel strong, courageous, and brave. And that to me is what this work is all about.
Wow. Amen to that. That is powerful, a powerful message. And You mentioned flow for a minute there, and I was thinking that the intersection, how does one achieve flow? And you do step off into with the courage of the unknown and with a high level of mastery in a given domain. By exercising this muscle over and over again, we can get to a level of high skill in this area. So I could imagine the flow state that you're describing as well. What a message for our big self audience. Scott Simon, thank you so much for sharing this passionate and timely message with us.
Chad, it was total pleasure.
And of course, please share with us, tell us where we can find out more, where we can have the opportunity to buy copies for strangers and be sharing it. Tell us, where can we find you?
I invite all of your listeners to come join us. We're a free grassroots organization. Scareyoursoul.com is where it all starts. You can sign up for our challenges. There are free challenges on the site, free ideas and ways for you to become more courageous in your life. If you want to take a deeper dive and really kind of move it to the next level, the book is also called Scare Your Soul, 7 Powerful Principles to Harness Fear and Lead Your Most Courageous Life. It's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and every bookstore out there. I think really allows people to deeply, deeply engage in this work. But I really look forward to people connecting with us. And by the way, my email address is everywhere. It's on the site and it's in the book. I respond to every email and really view this as my particular passion, my way to bring my big self into the world.